Zach, I'm just kind of bummed that Casey's not here this year. I mean, it just doesn't feel like Christmas without him screaming and moaning in the corner.
I mean, look at it this way. We can play all the Christmas music we want to.
That's true. He doesn't even know about all the Christmas punk music. It's hilarious. It's okay. I sent 3 ghosts to his apartment tonight to scare the dickens out of him.
Oh my gosh, dude, that's hilarious because my Christmas present to you this year was going to be giving you the gift of a Christmas Carol. I was going to hire 3 actors to play the Ghost of Christmas Present, the Ghost of Christmas Past, Ghost of Christmas Yet to Come. Casey was going to be...
I could be Scrooge?
You were going to be Scrooge. Casey was going to be the 6'4" Tiny Tim. I was either going to be Bob Cratchit or Jacob Marley, one of the two. Maybe both. But people bailed at the last minute.
Zach, just the fact that you thought of that touches me so deeply. I've always wanted to play Scrooge.
I know, man. I know.
Oh, God bless us, everyone.
Welcome to another Miserable Podcast, everybody, where we explore the pumpkin-scented intersection of horror and pop culture, or in today's case, the peppermint-scented intersection of horror and pop culture, because we're going to be talking about some holiday horror movies. I am Zach, and joining me, as always, the newly christened professor, our resident Charles Dickens, Professor Kris Pistol.
Good evening. I was about to be going to Boris Karloff. Charles Dickens sounds just like Boris Karloff. Isn't that weird?
I mean, we don't technically know what Charles Dickens sounded like, so he could have the exact same voice as Boris Karloff.
I like to think he sounded just like Dan Stevens.
The man who invented Christmas.
Yeah.
And as we alluded to in the intro, Casey is not here with us today.
He's
Sad
dead.
face.
He died.
No, he's on vacation. But he did leave us a really festive holiday greeting, which I will play for you all right now.
It's that time once again for everybody to get aboard the ho 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 train. Hi everybody, this is Professor Casey. I am unavailable for the recording of this episode, so I did a nice little pre-tape for you instead. Happy holidays, everyone. The closer we are to the holidays, the closer we are to putting 2020 completely behind us and getting out of this horrible year. But I hope that your holiday time is great. I hope you have a good time. Kris and Zach, they're going to talk about some holiday slasher movies and some killer Santas and all that fun stuff. And really, I don't have a favorite one because I tend to avoid Christmas movies. I'm not that into Christmassy stuff, especially if Christmas music is involved. I like Christmas. I just don't like Christmas horror movies all that much that we haven't already talked about on this show. So watch some Silent Night, Deadly Night 2 in my honor if you get the chance. Because it's garbage day, people.
Thank you for that, Casey. Speaking of Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 2... which I did watch this year. I did watch, and I actually have not seen the first Silent Night, Deadly Night.
You haven't seen the first one?
No, but I'd heard
the second one.
I'd heard good things about the second one. Well, actually, it's not a bad idea to watch the second one first, because the first half of the second one is just an entire recap of the first movie. They just literally show a bunch of scenes from the first movie.
Yeah.
Recapping the whole movie. And then the last 30 minutes of it is like Part 2.
That is some lazy-ass sequeling right there.
But Part 2, the original stuff that is there is so, over the top and ridiculous. That's why Casey said garbage day. For those of you who haven't seen it, that is, probably the most famous quote from that movie. I won't get into it too much more. I'll leave that for Casey to talk about next year if he wants to. But I did see another entry.
All I know about it is garbage day.
Yeah. It's pretty funny. But there is another entry in the Silent Night, Deadly Night series that I was very interested in, and that is Part 5. So I just watched 2 and 5. And Part 5 is Silent Night, Deadly Night, Part 5, The Toymaker. And Part 5 stars Mickey Rooney. And
Oh God, I've heard of this.
hot damn, Mickey Rooney is intense in this movie, dude. It just makes me sad that he was not in more horror movies because he's really good in this.
Oh man,
So,
what a career! What a career that man had.
Mickey Rooney, dude, absolute legend.
I remember this probably scarier than anything in Silent Night, Deadly Night 5 was when I was watching the Muppets, the Jason Segel Muppets, in the theater, and then Mickey Rooney just like pops up out of nowhere to sing like one line of a song, like that's taking place in the opening of this movie, and literally Mickey Rooney like pops up, says his line, and my reaction was like, "Oh God, he's still alive!"
Aw, I like this.
I had no
this
idea.
bit.
I mean, it was like, oh, Mickey Rooney. After the initial shock, I was like, oh, that's nice. Mickey Rooney's still alive. But at first, I was just like, oh my God, it's the ghost of Mickey Rooney.
I think he was like right after Feist.
Ah.
The 1, 2, 3, 4 singer.
Oh, that's who that was.
Anyway,
I was
so
like, I remember I didn't know who Feist was at the time, so I remember seeing that and being like, I'm sure that was someone famous, but I have no idea who.
So, Silent Night, Deadly Night 5, The Toymaker, is produced and co-written by Brian Usna, Society's Brian Usna. Come on down.
God.
So, there are some gnarly special effects in here from Screaming Mad George, who the Brian Usna and Stuart Gordon worked with a lot, obviously. So, some of the jokes about this movie is Mickey Rooney plays a pretty much drunk, disgruntled owner of a toy store named Joe Petto, Petto.
Oh,
like
God.
Geppetto. Like Geppetto. Get it?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Like Geppetto. That's exactly what I thought of, Zach.
Yeah. And the name of the toy store is Petto's Toys.
No! No, why?
So,
Why,
yeah.
Mickey Rooney? Why would you agree to do this?
Immediately, I don't know what the screenwriter was thinking. Even if he went, oh, that sounds like Geppetto. I guess, I don't know if
No, I refuse. I refuse to believe this. I refuse to believe that wasn't intentional.
I mean, this was more or less pre-internet times, right? So maybe it just,
No.
you didn't know how widespread that
I
usage was.
refuse. I refuse to believe that. Pre-internet times mean even more of an excuse to be terrible.
So Mickey Rooney is the main name in this movie. Clint Howard makes a cameo. I think Usna makes a cameo as well. Some other people that were in the Silent Night, Deadly Night series have brief cameos in this. It's not related at all to the other movies. It doesn't really have a through line as far as plot goes. It's about this young boy at the beginning of the movie. Some random day in December. He notices an odd gift under his tree. I think before he opens it, his dad comes down and catches him and is like, get the hell upstairs. And his dad opens this gift, and it's like this weird looking orb with Santa that's kind of dressed like Santa Claus. And then these arms reach out from it and start strangling this dude from this toy.
Okay.
And then he falls on a fire poker, and it goes through his neck, and he dies. And his son sees this whole thing on the stairs of the house. And so then the movie cuts to 2 weeks later. The wife comes down too, who's one of the leads of the movie. Played by Jane Higginson. The character's name is Sarah. And she's apparently already gotten over the horrible death of her husband. But the young boy in these 2 weeks has gone mute. Not surprising. He doesn't talk. And so to kind of make him feel better, she wants to take him to get a toy. So she goes to Petto's Toys, the local toy store.
Where you go. That's where you go to get the toys.
And you see
You
Mickey
go to
Rooney.
the Petto.
And Mickey Rooney, he has... He has a strange young son who looks like he's supposed to be in late teens or early 20s or something, probably late teens.
Does he keep him in a cage?
Sort of. But he supposed to help around the shop, but he just berates him and just yells at him throughout the whole movie. Anyway, they're trying to help this kid pick out a new toy. He can't find what he wants. Again, there isn't really much of a plot here. There is another character that we're introduced to, a young guy in his 20s, who seems to be investigating Petto's Toys. And so he buys a bunch of toys from Mickey Rooney and goes to kind of research them at this motel room in town. And then the rest of the movie is just kind of following this couple and also this guy as they're sort of... The kid is very suspicious of the toys as well, since he saw his father killed. He doesn't want anything from the store, and it's still weird that the mom is just sort of not mourning her husband at all 2 weeks later.
He was an asshole probably. So
he kind of, based off the brief interaction. Anyway, so you see these different toys kind of attacking other people. The kind of dude who's investigating it ends up giving his toy to this the dude at the motel was trying to bug him for rent and says, "Here, take this toy, give it to your kid." I don't think he doesn't realize the toy is gonna kill him, so the dude takes his toy and drives home with it, and it's like this weird worm snake toy, and it starts to attack him as he's driving, and it buries into his head and sucks his eyeballs in, which is a nice effect. So yeah, there's a sequence in this movie that kind of reminded me of Small Soldiers, where there's this couple making out, and they're supposed to be babysitting the young boy in this movie, and they start making out, and they're attacked by a bunch of toys because Mickey Rooney breaks into this house and unleashes these toys on them. And I'm not going to spoil everything because there's more to it than I'm saying, but it's fun. I think I gave this 2.5 stars. It's not. There were moments of it I liked, and some of the special effects were good.
How Christmassy would you describe this movie? Does it have a Christmas vibe about it?
Oh yeah, I mean Mickey Rooney's dressed up like Santa Claus. There's Christmas trees. It's okay. Christmassy. It's not like I don't know how much Christmas music is played during this. There's a scene where there's a bunch of Santa. Clint Howard is dressed up as a department store Santa.
Because Silent Night, Deadly Night, I think of as the dude walking down the street, and it looks like springtime, and it's like, what the fuck this isn't a Christmas movie. What's happening right now?
I mean, it might take place in LA. I'm not sure, so I don't know if there was snow or not, but it's Christmassy, So yeah, that's Silent Night, Deadly Night 5, The Toymaker. I didn't go into a lot of the details of it because it's one of those movies you just need to watch, but it's fun. I think it's available on Tubi right now. It's free somewhere. So if you're looking for just a really silly holiday horror movie to put on, I think it's one of the better ones in the Silent Night, Deadly Night series. It might be the best just because it's inventive and original, and it's completely goofy like Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 2. So
I'm just surprised you remembered a scene from Small Soldiers.
I watched that movie a decent amount when I was a kid.
That was at the turning point of me going from kids movies to adult movies. And I remember seeing that movie and just being like, I'm confused. What is this? I don't understand.
I mean, you're talking to someone who loves Gremlins, so it's in my wheelhouse kind of.
Yeah, but Gremlins is just I don't know. Gremlins works because it's it is firmly in its time. And I don't know, maybe the fact that they're actual puppet creatures and Small Soldiers, it's a lot of CGI animation from what I remember.
No, tonally that movie is all over the place. I do enjoy it, and the effects are pretty good. The characters, the action figures in that movie are interesting. It's all over the place tonally though, and Phil Hartman is fantastic. So it's worth a watch. Anyway, that's Small Soldiers. All right, Chris, what have you been watching this Christmas holiday movie season? Yeah.
I've been watching a shit ton of stuff. In preparation for talking about stuff on this show, I revisited. I guess next to Silent Night, Deadly Night 5, I revisited Christmas Evil, which I hadn't seen since I don't think college.
I have not seen this.
Do
not smite me, listeners. It's one of those holiday horror movies I've not gotten to yet. I know.
Yeah, this is the original Killer Santa. I don't think it's original, but it's the original movie that revolves around Killer Santa.
Yeah, of course.
Before Silent Night, Deadly Night. And it's funny because Silent Night, Deadly Night got all of this attraction from protesting parents, saying, "Hey, how dare you make Santa Claus a killer? You're ruining this for children, blah, 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 blah." It's Christmas Evil did that 7 years before and got no attention just because nobody saw the movie. It was just this little independent film that came out, and I actually think it's more interesting than Silent Night, Deadly Night. It's less campy, for sure. It's more of a psychological thriller, where this guy, of course, it's the tried and true evil Santa formula. He's a kid. He goes downstairs, and from the staircase, which it always seems to be viewed from the staircase, he sees his dad dressed up as Santa, sexually groping his mom. This messes him up from a young age. He has this fixation with Santa Claus. John Waters, who's a big fan of this movie, described it pretty accurately as the first half is it's almost like he's preparing for a sex change, but instead of changing genders, he's changing into Santa Claus.
Oh, Wow.
So he grows up to become like this kind of a very troubled man who works this very low job at a toy factory. He's kind of disgruntled because they make crappy
It sounds a lot
toys.
like Silent Night, Deadly Night.
A bit, yeah. I mean, he's a little bit older, I think, than that character in Silent Night, Deadly Night. He's like in the kind of like middle age, and he's kind of disgruntled because his company makes toys he thinks are subpar, and everyone around him has a very cynical nature towards Christmas. So his like. And this isn't like super clear in the movie, but I think the original intention was like he's kind of disenchanted with how commercialized Christmas has made Santa Claus, or how commercialized Santa Claus has become, and he thinks Santa Claus should return to its roots of being like rewarding good kids and punishing bad people. So he goes out on Christmas Eve dressed as Santa Claus and delivers. He like, it's like 50-50 where he like goes from a scene where he's like delivering presents to kids and being like super nice and cheerful, and then just murdering the fuck out of evil people. There's a great like stab through the eye, like out of a Fulci movie. Yeah, and it's kind of like, I think it's more interesting because it kind of has both of those natures, where it's just kind of like, you could take a scene from this movie. There's a scene where he goes to a hospital and like delivers presents, and they're like surprised that he's there and everything, and it's you could take that scene and just take it out, and you'd be like, oh, this is a charming little Christmas scene. Like, yeah. And then like immediately following that, he's like getting in a confrontation with these crazy drunk people who are just being assholes, and then just murdering the shit out of them. But it's very just more psychological, I think, because it kind of goes into his like deranged mindset. Yeah, I think this would actually be great for like a reboot. I think it's like, I'm surprised it hasn't been yet. Maybe because of that controversy around like evil Santa Clauses, but I don't know. I think nowadays and age people don't give a shit.
I mean, Krampus is around now, so I mean.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that movie got zero pushback, so I don't know. Yeah, you could totally. I feel like you could remake this with like Bryan Cranston would be a great choice, or
oh yeah,
Sam Rockwell, or Michael Shannon, or something like that. It'd totally be like a fun, interesting remake. But yeah, I thought it was pretty decent. I think I gave it a 3 out of 5.
Nice. Christmas Evil. I will watch it, guys. I will try and watch it this year. There's just like, I feel like the holiday season comes and there's so many movies I want to get to, and it just becomes like a checklist. Okay, I watched that. Like, instead of just enjoying the movies, I hate that.
Oh yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I used to watch like a movie a day during December, like a Christmas movie a day. I tried to. December.
I just have not been able to.
Well, it was a lot easier when I was like single and not that busy with a job. But I think also when you get older, you just get more chill and relaxed, and it's just like, okay, I'll just watch whatever I feel like and want to, and whatever the podcast deems me to. You got to enjoy the season.
I'm trying to. I got 5 days left to enjoy. 5 days left to enjoy the holiday season.
Well, is there something else you wanted to talk about?
Oh, I got a few things.
Okay, go next.
Okay, well, this was just a short. This will be a quick one. But I watched Alien Christmas on Netflix. This is from the Chiodo Brothers. I love this. So if you guys know the Chiodo Brothers, Killer Clowns from Outer Space, they did the stop motion animated sequence of Elf. So they're very great at. I mean, they're great at everything they do. But yeah, they're really good at stop motion animation. This is a lovely holiday special. It is about a race of aliens known as called the Kleps, so like kleptomaniac, because their whole thing, their reason for being, is to like steal things and take shit. They just like material possessions, basically, and it revolves around the protagonist is an alien named X, and he's like the smallest alien, so he never gets to keep anything he takes. The other aliens just take it from him, and they discover planet Earth, and so they want to build like a giant it's called a gyrotron. There's this big device that will blast all the objects from Earth so they can just steal it. But they need to install it. And they decide to install it in the North Pole. And X is chosen to install it. He has like a robot companion that helps him out. So he goes to the North Pole and sees all these shiny objects. And he wants to steal things kind of, like the Grinch. But soon he sees kind of the love and warmth that's in the North Pole. And the animation is just beautiful. It's very, it's certainly, obviously, an ode to Rankin Bass in a way, kind of modern Rankin Bass. the story has a very Grinch-like trajectory, so I don't want to spoil everything that happens, but the animation is wonderful, and it's a lot of fun. It's not, there is an alien invasion at one point, and so it's there's still a little, but it's a family film, so it's there's no blood or guts or anything like that, so you can totally show this to your kids if you have kids, or your younger sister, younger brothers, whatever. But this movie is a lot of fun.
It sounds like a sounds like inspired by the Flaming Lips or something.
Yeah,
Flaming Lips Christmas.
Yeah. No, this movie is great. So I give it at least 4 out of 5, maybe 4.5. I go back and forth. Wow. It's a waffler.
What's it called?
Alien Christmas. It's on
Alien
Netflix.
Christmas.
If you have not seen this, guys, go watch this right now. It is so great. Really,
I hadn't
really
even heard about it, but there's an IndieWire article about it.
My only criticism is that they did not include Fountain of Wayne's song "I Want an Alien for Christmas," which, come on.
Yeah. That's right there.
Besides that, absolutely fantastic. So definitely check that out, guys. It's a nice little short review for you. But Alien Christmas from the Chiodo brothers. Come on,
Does it have like it looks like Jon Favreau was involved in the behind the scenes as well.
I wouldn't be surprised. Obviously, they're tight with him since they did effects for Elf. So
that's awesome. I didn't even know that connection.
Yeah.
Does it have any like recognizable actors in it?
I think there are some recognizable voice actors in it for sure. I just don't know them off the top of my head. I'd have to.
Sure.
I could do a quick.
You can IMDb that, people listening. It's okay. I forgot to mention that Robert Lesser is in Christmas Evil. Robert Lesser, who people will maybe recognize from also being in Die Hard and Ernest Saves Christmas. He's like the sleazy agent in Ernest Saves Christmas.
Yeah.
I immediately recognize him every time I see him. It's like, oh, that guy's in Ernest Saves Christmas.
You know what? It doesn't seem like any name actors. It's like voice actors, recognizable voice actors, which is great. They deserve to get more primetime work than just TV stuff. So D. Bradley Baker, who does like Star Wars, the Clone Wars, and I guess Phineas and Ferb, Avatar. So lots of different things. And Barbara Goodson is another one that I see here. So it's really great. So that's Alien Christmas.
Fun. Check that out. Well, speaking of fun, I saw the uber dark, edgy version of A Christmas Carol that actually came out last year.
Oh yeah,
on
I remember
FX.
This.
It was an FX miniseries. Yeah, 3 parts. Starring Guy Pearce as Ebenezer Scrooge, who I first saw in the Time Machine remake, but also he was in Count of Monte Cristo. He was in like Prometheus.
Memento? Am I wrong?
Memento, of course. How can I forget? That's like
I was like, wait, he was in Memento, right?
Oh yeah, it's like his most memorable thing. I always forget about Memento for some reason.
And I think Iron Man 3, right?
Oh yeah, Iron Man 3. Shit, yeah. I don't know why the Time Machine is just the first thing I think of when I see him. Probably because it was the first time I noticed him as an actor. Anyway, Guy Pearce as Ebenezer Scrooge, and I remember I think I started watching this last year and just lost interest after the first 10 minutes because it was so different than the book. Which is funny because it's every version of A Christmas Carol basically sticks by the book because it's not hard. The book is super short. It's tried and true. It's extremely classic. So of course you're just going to stick by the book. Save from Scrooged, every version of A Christmas Carol goes by the book pretty closely. So it was weird that I was just this isn't the book. I don't know. I'm losing interest. But I decided to give it another chance this year. And I think it's actually kind of an interesting change now. I mean, it still is the basic structure of the story where Ebenezer Scrooge is an asshole. He is a clerk. He's visited by his old business partner, Jacob Marley, as a ghost. The opening scene in this is actually a boy pissing on the grave of Jacob Marley, so setting the tone, setting on the tone right away.
Oh,
and
man.
then the pee seeps in through the dirt somehow, and lands droplets on Jacob Marley's face, and he
you see that?
Yeah, and he wakes up and he's like, "Can I get no fucking peace?"
What? This is sounding like Scrooged.
A little bit, yeah. But the catalyst is basically that Jacob Marley has been, like in torment over the last 7 years since he's been dead and cannot get any peace. So he's just like, he cries out like, can I get some peace? And then these ghosts show up and basically are like, you're going to go visit Ebenezer Scrooge because we are going to search every corner of his soul to see if he can be redeemed. So
almost
Scrooge
sounds like Marley is the protagonist in a way.
Almost. It kind of like focuses it that way. It's very weirdly structured because like the first hour of this is basically just that, and it kind of crescendos with Marley visiting Scrooge, and there's like a long sequence of Scrooge and Bob Cratchit just like talking and setting up like all of the characters and everything. And I think that's also kind of what was rough in going into this, was just kind of like, get on. Like, I know this is long. I know this is 3 episodes, but come on, fucking get on with it. Like, we want to get to the ghosts. Once it does kind of get going, it definitely picks up steam a lot. It's just very disjointed because the first episode is almost just like the beginning, like 30 seconds of every other version of this. And then the following 2 episodes are centered on the ghosts. It's definitely like tonal wise a much more like sort of R-rated, very bleak version of everything. Everything's kind of turned up to 11. Ebenezer Scrooge, instead of just being neglected as a child, is like left alone at a school where he's like being like molested by the teacher. And then his like sister comes and saves him like at gunpoint, basically.
Oh my God.
He does something terrible, which I won't reveal here, to Bob Cratchit's wife, to the point where you're almost just like, fuck this guy. Like, this is just like, it's really challenging you on whether or not you want to see Scrooge redeemed by the end of it.
Is this like, is any of this from like the source material stuff that's usually cut out?
No, not at all. It's very much a deviation.
Wow.
In all those extreme ways. Yeah, and I think that's a little bit of a complaint for me, is that at times it just feels like a teenager's like edgy like fan fiction. Like he's writing his own version of Christmas Carol, like, I bet what if it was really fucked up if this happened? And it just kind of feels like this just isn't necessary,
Yeah.
I do like that by the end it kind of plays on this theme of do people that do things like this, do they deserve redemption, do they deserve forgiveness, kind of a thing. So it kind of has that, it kind of deals with that, I think, in an interesting way towards the end, where Scrooge eventually, spoilers, does decide to change his ways, and it's not hinged on him changing, it's him hinged on finally making a decision to do something for someone else. And basically he's kind of like, they kind of end it with like, look, we're not forgiving you, like what you did was unforgivable, but and he's kind of like, that's fine, I don't deserve forgiveness. It's not about that. It's not about kind of accepting forgiveness, it's about just doing the right thing even when you're not forgiven for it. So I thought that was like an interesting take on it. Other than that, I love the imagery of this. Like, it's fucking gothic and dark as shit. Like, it's like the Christmas Carol of my spooky imagination. Andy Serkis plays one of the ghosts, and he's pretty fantastic. So it's definitely got some highlights. I think it's just like a little too long. It's going to be like, I read online that a lot of people tuned in for the first episode, and literally like only a third of that audience showed up for the second episode. Yeah. Like, the drop off was dramatic. So, and I can see why, because the first episode is just like, oh god, just like hurry up with this shit.
Just thinking Guy Pearce is an odd choice to play Ebenezer Scrooge, but it seems like they're going for more of a Scrooge, sort of different retelling of it. So
he's great though. One of the other highlights of this, I think, is the acting, and just his performance, I think, is pretty fucking great.
Nice.
So it's honestly the best thing I've ever seen him in.
It seems like it might be a more realistic redemption story because it's like, well, Scrooge, you're still an asshole, but okay.
Right. Especially in the age that we live in now of like, there are real evil people out in the world now. And we've kind of come to this realization of like, not everyone I don't think deserves our forgiveness. Yeah. So I think that's an interesting parallel. I'm not sure if it completely works all the way. It's a pretty sloppy, it's pretty sloppy at times. But I think if you're a hardcore fan of this, or you're just looking for something, you're looking for a different version of that story, I think it's an interesting one to check out. So I think I gave it like a soft 3 out of 5.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to check it out just because it sounds, miserable. Sure. But
yeah, at times it definitely feels that way. But I think the last episode was my favorite.
How many episodes is it?
I was sad. It's like 3.
And they're like an hour or so each?
I think they're like 40 minutes.
Oh, okay.
40 to 50 minutes. So the whole thing is like 2 hours and 30 something.
Okay.
So, I like the last episode the best, and I was satisfied with how it ended. It was just kind of, it took some effort to get there.
All right.
I watched it over the course of like 3 nights, so,
Is it just called A Christmas Carol?
Yep. Christmas Carol. It's on Hulu. FX is A Christmas Carol.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. And speaking of miserable,
maybe we should have ended with our first 2 picks because
I got a fun
pick.
I got a fun pick to end things with.
Okay.
So this has been sitting in my Shudder queue for a long time. It is a holiday horror anthology called All the Creatures Were Stirring, directed by David Ian McHenry and his wife, I believe, Rebecca McHenry. This has a very nice ensemble. Constance Wu from Crazy Rich Asians, Fresh Off the Boat is in this. Jonathan Kite, who is 2 Broke Girls. Jocelyn Donahue, House of the Devil. Dr. Sleep, Insidious Chapter 2. Very, she's in lots of horror movies. Graham Skipper and Chase Williamson from Beyond the Gates. Chase Williamson has been in a lot of different horror things. He was in Scare Package earlier this year. He's constantly making like kind of cameo guest spots. But this is bad. Oh, it ain't so good. So the wraparound narrative for this horror anthology actually is kind of interesting. It goes nowhere, which is kind of the whole theme of this movie. But it's a decent attempt at a wraparound narrative if they actually had somewhere to go with it. And it was actually kind of fun for me because the location of this is North Hollywood, like right down the block from me. It's like there's a small little theater in NoHo. Like by a traffic light that has like a little small marquee that I've been to a billion times. Yeah. So it like opens on this little outside of this theater, and I was like, oh, I know that place. So it's about these 2 people that decide to go out on a date on Christmas Eve because they have nothing else to do, and so they go to this play that's called All the Creatures Were Stirring, and it just feels like the director's sort of like satire of like artsy like local theater productions. It's kind of interesting. There's like this ticket taker who's just kind of like looks like she doesn't want to be there and just kind of gives them a lot of like, nonverbal, like sarcastic looks and is just sort of, over it. And they go into this like little small black box theater. And the production, and this is how they kind of go from segment to segment, is it's kind of like it's like interpretive theater, and it's like a group of people come out on stage and like mime different things. And in between each kind of little interpretive segment that they're doing, another person comes out with these like there's like this stack of cards like on a little stand, and they have like different phrases from the night before Christmas, I believe. And so one is like all through the house, and then you see them start to do something, and then you cut to the segment, and then it cuts back to the theater, and you see the kind of couple reacting to it, like the guy is laughing a couple times because it looks silly, and then it goes to like another phrase like dash away all or something like that. So it kind of cut. There's about 5 segments. So it's an interesting attempt at a wraparound narrative. Doesn't ultimately lead anywhere. And that's the problem with these segments. So there are 5 of them, and they all have the same basic problem in that there's a kind of somewhat remotely interesting setup, and it goes nowhere. And they obviously had no budget. So the first 2 are the most interesting. The first one is a decent setup for, like I said, for like a holiday horror anthology. It's about this office Christmas party, and they're playing a game of White Elephant. They work at I think it's like some sort of chemical distributor of some sort. Anyway, but they're in the break room. And they're about to get started. Someone opens the first gift, and it turns out to be like a little trick gift that fires a bullet at the guy that opens it and kills him. And then all of a sudden, the doors in the break room are locked. They look outside. Their boss has been murdered. And a voice chimes in over the loudspeaker saying, "You guys need to open the rest of your gifts, or I'm going to release toxic gas in here and kill you all," basically. So it's kind of like it's like a Saw sort of setup, essentially. And so they kind of they're all squirmish about opening these gifts. It feels a lot like Saw 2 or something like that. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't really get that much more interesting. They open some more gifts. There's some, they like one of them has a gun and one of them has a knife. And so they kind of get testy with each other. Shit happens. Some other type of gas is released that seems to affect one of the people in there, but not the rest for some reason. And you're probably not going to watch this, Chris. So can I just...
Okay, nope. I'm going to do it.
Spoilers? Spoilers?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, go for it.
So the last gift is a gas mask. And they turn, and the girl has a gas mask on. And they're like, oh, shit. And so then you just all of a sudden hear a bunch of off-screen fighting because they want the gas mask. And then you see one of them get out. And that's like the end of the short. And I'm like, what the fuck? So... That's just kind of just the problem. Like, there is no twist for any of these shorts. They just sort of end flat. The next one is, again, another interesting setup. It's this dude on Christmas Eve, and he's doing last-minute Christmas errands, and he goes to his car, put his stuff away, and then he locks his keys and his phone inside his car. And his wife has been, like, bugging him to get home. It's like parents are there, and so he needs to get home. There's no one else in this huge parking lot except this weird kind of van. So he goes to knock on this van and ask if he can borrow the phone. It turns out 2 girls are in this van. They let him borrow it. And no, not like that. I mean,
does it turn into knock knock?
No, it doesn't turn into knock knock. But they let him borrow the phone, but they are kind of eyeing him in a weird way. And so he uses the phone, and they seem like they're nice girls. But as it turns out, they are kind of being more or less, there's something else going on in this van. So they're like kind of being held captive by some weird sort of demonic entity, and they have to stay within a certain amount of feet within this van. And if they leave, he kills them. It's contrived.
Okay.
But
it's one of those demonic van demons.
Essentially, they try to mark him, so he is like the person that has to guard this van and this demon, essentially, instead of them. I won't spoil everything that happens. But again, the ending is basically flat. So, again, interesting setup. Very kind of random, but like kind of interesting, cool. I don't know.
Those pesky van demons.
Yeah, that's what it is. So
interesting.
Yeah, so that's the second one. And then it's just progressively downhill from here. I mean, the last one is... Well, actually, especially the next two. The last one is kind of interesting. So the next one, I believe... This was probably I think the next one is a really stupid riff on A Christmas Carol. We're talking about that a lot in this episode.
It's a popular subject.
Yeah, speaking of A Christmas Carol, check out our episode we did last year on A Christmas Carol, talking about some of our favorite versions of A Christmas Carol. I did not get to upload that on YouTube this year, but maybe next year. But it's still available on all the podcast streaming platforms. You can find it. Really fun episode, so check that out. All right. So this is a really dumb riff on A Christmas Carol. It's this like slacker in his like 30s. It's just like a womanizer, and like he's like calling this girl that he hooks up with and asking her to come over, and she's like no. And he has like a neighbor that's very Christmassy, and that he's like drew like on his like little Santa like blow mold outside, and so he's just a dick. And there's something on TV that's clearly supposed to be like A Christmas Carol, but they didn't have the rights to A Christmas Carol, so I forget what the name of it is. But you just see 2 women in like Dickinson attire, just kind of talking in old timey English, and there's someone that's supposed to be Ebenezer Scrooge that shows up, but it was called like I forget what the name of it, like Chester's Bells or something.
Blackadder Christmas.
He's like, this is like on like every channel. And he gets like some package at his door. It's like some wreath or something. He thinks it's from his neighbor, and it just has like a message that says you will be haunted by or visited by 3 ghosts. And he's like, what the hell? And then you see these 3 CGI ghosts show up behind him. They all look like the ghost of Christmas Yet to Come, but they're like bad versions, like just like smoke monsters with glowing eyes. I think one of them has red eyes, and 2 of them have like green eyes. And it just is really stupid. He like has a freak out in the bathroom, and he sees himself talking to himself. He sees himself hanging himself. It's It's so stupid. He like has a vision of seeing himself when he was like a little kid, and like his parents like kind of berating him, asking him to sing something, and you see him like dressed up like in a little like and he's like dressed up as himself as a kid, like this 30-year-old dude in like a onesie, curled up in a ball, and then he's also playing his dad.
Okay.
And so it's weird. And again, it doesn't really have a horror ending. It just kind of he eventually wakes up from all of it. He like sees himself getting like killed and like eaten by rats at one point, but like not with like good effects. They clearly had no budget here.
Well, that happens, you know.
Yeah, but it ends with him being happy that he's alive, and sort of he gives his money to his neighbor, and then he just goes outside and does like a snow angel on the grass where there is no snow. So that's that one.
All right.
Sorry, I'm just spoiling this whole movie, guys. I'm sorry. I'm doing you a favor. So okay. The next segment is really stupid. It's about, I think he's either a private investigator or he's like a contract killer, because he's driving in like the middle of the woods, down some desolate path, and he has like a file with someone's picture on it, someone he's clearly supposed to track down. And all of a sudden he hits a reindeer. And you see a close-up on this reindeer that looks like someone put on a weird mask that like has fur on it or something, and you just see their eyes. It was probably really bad CGI. But so this is a short about he kills one of Santa's reindeer. I think it's like Blitzen.
Mm-hmm.
And so another reindeer hunts him down. But they obviously had no budget for like a reindeer puppet. So what you get is a POV shot with antlers. And that's your reindeer. And every time, and it's like a red, it's like a red like gel over the camera when it's the reindeer's POV. And it is so stupid. He goes back to his house. He has someone there that he's obviously like banging, and the reindeer shows up and just like horns both of them to death, but like with this like no effort in the effects department, and it just is laughably bad. And that's that one. That's like all there is to it. You don't even find out what reindeer it is that sought revenge. Like if it was Rudolph, that would have been kind of funny, but I don't think it was.
Oh God, I'm just picturing like a much funnier movie in my head now, where Rudolph is like stalking someone.
It's not good.
And you get a Rudolph puppet.
The last segment is the one with Constance Wu in it, and it's like a Twilight Zone style thing about these group of friends come over to this one kind of lonely dude's house, and he's clearly prepping for something because he has like a bunch of chains and he's like trying to handcuff himself. And Constance Wu was like, "We're not going to leave you alone on Christmas." And then all of a sudden, like something weird happens. There's like weird lights in the sky, and it's like a Twilight Zone thing. And there's like the other friends that are there are acting really weird, and they're apparently aliens. And again, there's some really bad CGI effects, and they're like there to teach him a lesson. And this guy has, I guess, been haunted by these aliens for the last year. Again, goes nowhere, makes no sense. That's that one. I really don't know what else I can say about it. It's just weird.
Hey, this movie is an hour and 20 minutes.
Yes. I mean, I like...
And it came out the same year as Crazy Rich Asians, and I bet Constance Wu thought about this not at all during that year.
Probably not. It was an easy watch, Not good, but it was an easy watch. And then the wraparound narrative ends with the guy, like, throughout this thing, he consistently has to go and, like, take phone calls for some reason. And there's another patron in this theater that's been staring at this girl in a weird way, his date, and all of a sudden what's going on stage, they start repeating lines that this couple said to each other at the beginning of the movie, and she's like, what the hell is going on? And then they start going to this thing like the dude on stage that's supposed to be like, that's reciting the lines that her date said to her earlier, is like, okay, I'll take care of it, I'll get rid of her, or something like that. So she's thinking that her date's gonna kill her or something like that, and like what's happening on stage is gonna happen in real life. And all of a sudden he has like a demon face for a minute when he comes back from the bathroom. But then it like goes away, and then like that's the end of the short, I think. The random dude in the audience like laughs or something at what's going on stage and starts to clap, and that's the end of the movie, I think. Huh. So that was all the creatures were staring. I just spoiled the whole thing for you. It's bad.
Okay.
I'm sure the directors had their heart in the right place, and I'm sure they had fun filming it, but damn. Like, decent. Some of them could have like done something interesting. I think the wraparound narrative of watching like a weird, like interpretive, like holiday play is kind of funny if they actually had somewhere fun to go with it, but they didn't. And then all these shorts, some of them, like the White Elephant idea was fun. The thing with the van was kind of interesting. The Twilight Zone one at the end didn't really make any sense, but they could have done something with it. But like they do nothing with it. They had no idea how to end any of them really. None of them are scary at all, and none of them are really funny. They're just weird. So,
damn
yeah,
shame.
1.5 stars out of 5 for that one.
Yikes. Hey, they can't all be winners.
No. My next one isn't a winner, but tell me, Chris, what else?
Are trying.
Yeah, tell me, Chris, what else have you watched this Holly Jolly season?
All right, so the next one I'm going to talk about, this has been on my list for like a couple years now, and I was like super excited to see this. I think this originally came out in 2018, and for some reason it got released like after Christmas, so this was like not available to watch Christmas of 2018. And I finally got around to seeing it. It's Anna and the Apocalypse.
Oh, okay. Not what I thought you were going to talk about.
Yeah, no. I was kind of deciding between that and another movie, and I decided that I had more to say about this movie.
The Black Christmas remake, right?
Yeah,
you watched that?
I have less to say about that, really.
Okay.
I mean, it's sad. Anyway.
Yeah. That's all you need to know about that. All right.
Yeah. Anyway, more to say about Anna and the Apocalypse. I feel like Carrie Elwes. Hey, he's doing a British accent again. That's fun. All right, that's it. And moving on. So Anna and the Apocalypse is a little independent British production film. This is essentially a Christmas musical with zombies. And that alone, I was like, okay, I'm intrigued.
Yes, same. This is another one I've been meaning to get to, so tell me.
Right.
Tell me about it.
So it centers around Anna, basically, and her schoolmates. There's a lot of just drama going on with her. She doesn't want to go to school. She doesn't want to go to the college that her dad wants her to go to. There's some tension there. There's a guy that really likes her that she just likes as a friend. A lot of high school kind of, drama shenanigans. There's some side characters with their stuff going on. And the movie, I think, properly is just a straightforward musical where musical numbers just happen. They don't really acknowledge it. It's like firmly going in that sort of La La Land High School Musical type of territory. And it takes place at Christmas. There's a Christmas pageant going on.
Yeah.
Doesn't really factor into the plot too much. I mean, it's kind of like how all these characters are sort of like end up interacting with one another is based around this Christmas pageant. And then a zombie apocalypse just happens.
Ah, yeah, as it does.
And there's no explanation for it. I don't think they really go too much into why it ends up happening. And then it basically just plays out like your sort of standard zombie movie with musical numbers sort of peppered in there.
Okay.
And it's definitely more sort of aimed at the teenage High School Musical audience.
How holiday is this? Because I know it's a holiday movie, is what I've heard, but like...
Fairly? Like, some of the songs revolve around Christmas, and there's, like, I guess enough Christmas atmosphere in it.
Is there a zombie dressed up like Santa?
Yeah. The thing about this movie is that... No, there is no zombie dressed up as Santa, sadly. Yeah, which is totally missing. The problem with this movie is that, it has these 3 elements in it. And it feels like someone who had this idea for a low budget film, and they had these 3 ingredients and were just like, we put these 3 ingredients in a movie, it's going to be awesome. The problem is that neither of these 3 things like have anything to do with one another, nor do they really like need to be there. Like there's no real reason this has to be set at Christmas. There's no real reason that a zombie apocalypse happens other than it is the plot of the movie. And there's no real reason for the characters to sing other than that's what the movie is.
Yeah.
And the fact that it's also pretty low budget is kind of evident throughout the movie. I mean, you feel like you can see the effort there, you know, like you can see like they got actors who could sing really well. There's some effort behind the songs, not enough that the songs are like super memorable, but it's just like, oh, that was okay, you know, like that was fine. And like, oh, you can see like, oh, well, like they did a lot with this like production, you know, they got like a bunch of extras to play the zombies or whatever. You know, it's just a shame that Shaun of the Dead already exists, because it's just like so much more everything than this movie is. You know, there's just so much more creativity and inventiveness that was already laid down, you know, like 20 years ago in that movie.
God, 20 years almost? Shit.
2004, I think is when the movie
right?
is. So nearly, yeah. So
or 2005,
16.
one of them.
Yeah, so 15, 16 years ago. Damn. Yeah. So, you know, I sort of like recommended this movie. I kept going back and forth on my rating.
Yeah.
But the ending is so anticlimactic. Like,
no.
nothing really comes to a head. It feels like they were like trying to build a climax out of the movie in the editing room almost.
Yeah.
But so little just like happens in this movie that it feels, you can really feel the weight of its lack of budget. So it's like, I was like, you know, there's nothing like offensive in this movie. There's nothing that I was just like, oh God, that's awful. Everything was just kind of like, aw, they tried, you know, you can feel like I would really probably like these people, like if I met them and would like support them on their next movie, you know, like
I've seen
they're gonna get there
year,
eventually.
yeah.
They're gonna get there eventually. It just feels like they blew their wad on this movie, like, you know, like kind of that feeling of when you're like, I may never get to make a movie again, so I'm going to put everything I can into this movie. So it's gonna be a zombie musical set at Christmas.
Oh man.
Yeah.
I kind of wanted to check this out, but you're bumming me out.
I'm sorry, man. You know, it might be a good like movie to put on for family, because even though it's a zombie movie, there's nothing super gory in it. Like it's very much aimed at, I think,
Family
a younger
zombie
audience.
movie.
Yeah, it's almost like super aimed at that kind of area where it's just playing on you know, already established things. Like, so if your family likes to watch The Walking Dead, there's nothing in this that's like worse than that. Yeah, it's kind of like trying to be everything for everyone type of movie.
Yeah.
And I would say like, I'd recommend this to like a 13-year-old who's like super into musical theater, but also likes to, you know, draw zombie cartoons and shops at Hot Topic. Is Hot Topic still a thing? I don't know. I'm old. But you know, like that musical theater student who has like a darker edge to them. This might be completely right up their alley. If you've seen movies, probably not.
I feel like, you know, anytime I see people mention it on Twitter, there's always like a positive reaction to it, but that's also like just people that are embedded in like the horror community. So I think those people are going to probably be more favorable to a film like this. And if you're kind of not as in that, you know, not in the horror circle, there's, you know, a lot of those movies that are just, you know, a tougher sell.
I can also see like having a more positive reaction if you saw this at a festival, and so you had no context for it. So the movie just started playing, and all of a sudden you're just like, oh, this is a musical. And then all of a sudden, like, holy shit, it's a zombie musical. You'd be like, oh shit, this is cool that this exists. But the fact that I had about a year and a half of build up to this, like I knew that it existed. And then when I finally saw it, it was kind of like, oh.
So what's your rating?
Oh, shit, what did I rate this?
I think I know, because I think I saw it in Letterboxd and I was disappointed when I saw it.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't give it the lowest rating I saw from some people. Some people fucking hated this movie.
I think you gave it 2 stars.
I did. I gave it 2 out of 5. I think I was going to give it 2.5 originally, but then the ending happened and I was like, yeah, fuck this ending.
You know, guys, I haven't really commented on our rating system because we basically we're all on Letterboxd, so we kind of just follow their kind of 5-point system, you know, half system. So it's not the best rating system in the world. You know, I wish Letterboxd had like 0.25 stars that you could do, but you know, like as far as
0.25,
I like doing like like a 3.25 or something. You know, like quarter stars. You know, that's. What
it's already like a 10-point system because you can do
if
2.5.
It's something that's like, say,
like
my next film that's like in between 3 and 3.5 stars. And like I'm like, it's like a waffler, as I coined earlier.
Yeah, sure.
I just like that in between if I want to be very specific. But
you can always give it 2 different ratings depending on how you felt.
Here's what else, because there's like entertainment value rating, and then there's, okay, what is this movie like as a film? You know, and that again we'll get into my next film. But I will just say, as far as our ratings go, for me, if it's 2 stars and below, it's just degrees of bad. If it's 2.5, there's stuff I liked about it and enjoyed, and I would recommend to certain people. 3 stars and up, good. That's basically my rating system. And Casey and Kris have their own individual parameters, I'm sure, that just use the same scale.
Yeah. A 4 and over is like, I'd recommend this to anybody, or I would recommend this to everyone. 3 is kind of like, I'd recommend this to some people depending on like who you are, kind of a thing. Yeah, it's better than Roger Ebert's system, which was just like 4 stars and no halvesies. So it was like, you gave this movie 3 stars, which seems a little harsh, but it's like, it's 3 out of 4. So it's like, this movie was really good.
Yeah. Rating systems are just, they're a thing. Don't put too much stock into our ratings. Just put stock into what we say about the movies and if we enjoyed it or not.
It's true.
All right, take
us home, Zach.
I'm going to take us home in a really fun way because, man, I was given a gift yesterday, Kris.
Oh, were you now?
Not a physical gift, but a gift from Syfy, the channel. So I follow there's a Twitter account called the Horror Calendar. I forget who runs it, but I highly recommend, if you're into horror movies, following it if you're on Twitter, because you find out releases each day. And I just saw a tweet and they were like, this is coming out in Syfy today. And it was a film called Letters to Satan Claus. This is directed by Emma Jean Sutherland. So I had not heard about this movie at all. Okay. I watched this trailer, and the plot of this movie, whoever thought of this, hats off to you, because it is hilarious. So it's about a girl who, when she was like 9 years old, she got pissed at her parents because they wouldn't buy her this toy. So she writes a letter to Santa saying, Santa, can you just get rid of my parents for me, please? That would be great.
Dear Santa, fuck you. No, just...
But she misspells Santa as Satan.
Uh-oh.
So I don't know where this girl went to school that she doesn't know. Like, you think she'd be able to read Satan and know that that's not Santa, but
hey, kids, it happens all the time.
Because the girl was like old enough though that she should know how Santa and how Satan is spelled, but she misspells it as Satan, so she puts it in this box, and you see this like mailbox start to spark up. Anyway,
spelling is hard, Zach.
And then the next morning, she wakes up with her sister, and her parents not with her parents. She wakes up with she has a younger sister. They wake up, they open gifts, or an older sister. They're about the same age, whatever. They open gifts, and they find her parents' disembodied limbs inside these Christmas presents.
Aww, how heartwarming.
So it cuts to like 20-something years. That like flashback is kind of interspersed throughout the first like 30 minutes of the movie. But the protagonist, who is played by Karen Knox, and she is fantastic in this movie. Let me just say, in general, this movie is a spoof of the litany of Hallmark Lifetime Christmas movies that bombard your TV channel every season. And I will say, this movie is a spot-on spoof of those movies. Like, I enjoy putting those on for a minute just because they're so fascinating. None of them are good, but like the sets and the way they're lit, this like bright sheen, that kind of plastic sheen that is put on all of them that this movie emulates, and the stereotypical like that cast of characters, that is all here. So the lead of this movie is a news anchor. So this town that she's a news anchor, and she's assigned to go do a report in this town called Ornaments, which is where she grew up. Of course it's called Ornaments, because if you watch any Hallmark Christmas movie, the town always has a name like that, or it's about like a rundown ornament factory.
It's just Christmas town.
Yeah, or there's some sort of winter wonderland festival going on. So this movie takes all of that and uses it to great effect, and this character is just like, she curses like a sailor. She's the anti like Hallmark protagonist. It's great. So she's told that if she does this story, she will get the get an anchor position if she just goes and shows that she has holiday cure, because she's a very kind of sarcastic, biting person. She's like, I don't want to go there. I grew up there. And he's like, you're going to get the anchor job if you just go there and do this. And she's like, fine. So one of the things this movie does, it introduces different love interests, and it has that, like that cheesy, like sparkly thing when it introduced like a romantic lead, but she immediately finds like an issue with like all these love interests that are introduced to her. Like she's introduced to her cameraman, and she's like, hello. And then the camera zooms in and he has like a dangly cross earring. She's immediately turned off. She's like, oh.
As she should be.
And so
red flag.
It's just, this movie is like really funny. So there's just a lot of just really great nuances. There's a little coffee shop they go to in this town that's like a French themed, and there's like two high schoolers that work there, and they have like handlebar like French grease paint mustaches.
Oh dear God.
And there's like a gay best friend character that she was friends with when she used to live there. And oh God, it's so great. There's just a really lot of nuances. They really emulate that Hallmark Christmas movie and lampoon it in such a great way. And then she ends up getting drunk one night and writes another letter to Satan, because she discovers that this letter to Satan in her like childhood home that her sister lives at, and her sister is like super into Christmas and knits like Christmas holiday sweaters, and just like is super happy to see her. It's very over the top.
Yeah.
And
she's just dyslexic.
Yeah. So she gets drunk one night and she mails another letter to Santa after she discovers this childhood one that she mailed when she was a kid. And through this, you're seeing the flashback of when she was a kid, and they discovered her parents like disembodied, like dissevered heads in the Christmas boxes. And so she writes Satan again and is just like, screw you, Satan. And like, I don't forget everything she says. And so he comes back and starts terrorizing the town and murdering people. Meanwhile, this town is trying to get ready for, different like holiday festivals and stuff like that. And she's supposed to be doing reports in between. Her cameraman goes missing. Is attacked by Satan. The deaths, the effects are, what you would expect for a sci-fi movie, but there's a lot of fun put into them. And it works that they're cheesy because this is like a spoof of like a Hallmark Lifetime Christmas movie. So it works that there's like cheesy horror effects for this. The person playing Satan I don't know if this is a spoiler, but it's clearly it's a woman, which is kind of cool. Uh-huh. And it's like very over the top. Her portrayal when you see her, I don't really want to say too much about it. You should watch it. It's great. So
sounds super fun.
Yeah, I absolutely watch this. So I'm trying to see what else I can say about this without giving too much away. But it's just full of really goofy moments and nuances that are anytime she meets another love interest she meets, it's a guy that she used to date in high school, and his name, of course, is Kris Kringle. He's not Santa, but his name is Kris Kringle, and she's kind of interested in him, and then all of a sudden she finds out that he has like a teenage daughter that's like super goofy and still believes in Santa, even though she's like 16, and she's like, oh God. So it's just a lot of fun. I really enjoyed this. This is a huge surprise. Some of the effects are pretty great. There's a lot of like someone is strangled and their eyeballs bulge out. There's something with a snowman. It's just they really, that whole like stereotypical like cast of characters you find in these movies are there, and like everyone is good looking, of course, because that's what like a Hallmark movie is. And yeah, so this was a lot of fun, guys. It was on Syfy. I'm sure you can watch it on demand. I'm sure it's going to be replayed before Christmas. So go to your DVR and record it now. It is a blast, and I will definitely be adding this to my Christmas rotation. And I gave it. This was, again, a waffler for me, between 3 or 3.5 stars. Entertainment-wise, it's like 5 out of 5. But as far as just, I think the ending, they could have punched home a little more. It seems at one point like she's going to fall prey to all like those Hallmark stereotypes, and they're going to have that ending. I'm not going to spoil what happens. But I'll just say the ending, I think, is on the mark. They could have had a little bit bigger of like a better showdown with Satan at the end, is what I will say. Mm-hmm. And so that was, maybe docked it like a little bit for me, but at least a really strong 3 stars. This is Letters to Satan Claus, or Letter to Satan Claus. It's one of the two. Loved this. This was so much fun. So get some hot chocolate and just watch this movie. It's a blast. If you've seen any Hallmark Lifetime movie, you're really going to enjoy this, I guarantee, because it's just such a fun parody.
It sounds like we desperately need like a big budget version of this movie.
It feels kind of a bit like, the beginning of like Pleasantville when they're going to that 50s town and you see it's sort of like that, but with like a Lifetime Hallmark movie and mixed with like a really goofy horror premise.
Those Lifetime Hallmark movies, they're so in the public consciousness now.
Yeah.
That like you could totally make a big budget, just like sort of parody, a dark parody version of that, and people I think would be into it.
You could, but I think almost this is better because those movies don't have huge budgets, and this really emulates like they use the same kind of filter that those movies do. So I think a big budget might not work as well. This was fantastic, guys. So this was a huge surprise for me. So I'm really glad I discovered it. So thank you to the Horror Calendar Twitter account for alerting me. So that was some holiday horror movies, guys. Also, I got to give a shout out. Kris is wearing his Groucho Marx shirt, so you need to take anything he has said in this episode seriously. Not that you wouldn't otherwise, but even more seriously because he's wearing his Groucho shirt.
And my Groucho mustache and cigar and eyebrows.
So yeah, guys, that was man. So we've watched some shit this season and some fun stuff. So there you go.
Use our recommendations wisely.
Yeah. This has
been 100% of your Christmases. Be wise.
This is the last episode of the year for us, and it feels good to get out of 2020. I just want to send deepest heartfelt and sympathies and condolences to anyone that's lost a loved one this year due to COVID. It's been a really wretched year, and I just I'm hopeful that our podcast has the word miserable in the title, and I know that's kind of a hard sell in a year that's been as miserable as this one. So if you have tuned in, thank you so much. I'm hopeful that next year the only thing miserable will be our podcast. So,
amen. 2021 can't be any worse, right?
Yes.
Knocks on wood tremendously.
Yeah, so our next episode will be our best horror movies of 2020. So we'll have one last look at 2020, but then we will bid adieu. Yeah, then we will bid adieu. So please have a wonderful, wonderful holiday season. Happy Christmas, Merry Christmas, Happy Festivus.
Woo!
Happy Kwanzaa.
For the rest of us.
Before I go, Kris requested that I open his gift that he sent me.
Oh, is that a gift beside you, Zach, that Santa sent you?
Santa Pistol sent me a gift.
Oh my gosh. Ho, ho, ho. It's only because you've been such a good boy this year, Zachary.
I pre-scored it, so it'll be easy to open it. I don't have to wrestle with this
on
the
good.
air.
We won't have just like 30 seconds of just like struggling with a box noises.
Yeah, I will point out that my gift, which I bought at the very beginning of December, has not showed up yet, but it will be showing up before Christmas, I believe. So I apologize, Kris. I was hoping you were going to open this at the same time. But
I'm just glad I got there intact because I definitely like had to tape one side of it because the thing was kind of like not staying on correctly.
I appreciate the craftsmanship.
I was like, I was talking to the postman. I was like, do you have like another top you can put on there? And he's just like, no, this was fine. He just started taping it together right before he asked me if I smoked marijuana. So, I was
it's a poster tube.
Confident.
It's a poster tube, and I just want to say it'd be hilarious.
But anything could be in there.
Yeah, it'd be hilarious if it was not a poster. But
anything could be in there, Zach.
It looks like it's a poster. Oh snap! Here we go.
Oh god, it's something shaped like a poster, that's for sure.
Oh, this is awesome. Hell yeah.
What are you holding, Zach?
I'm holding a Friday the 13th 40th anniversary poster. So this looks like it's the same. Is this from the box set?
It is from the box set.
Wow, you gifted me your Friday the 13th box set poster. That is so thoughtful of you.
I felt so bad that you missed out on getting your Friday the 13th box set. That
Thanks,
I thought
buddy.
Zach needs to share a little bit of this joy.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yep.
That box set, which is now like on sale for like $100 on Amazon right now. So.
I don't want to think about how much money I wasted from just buying this box set early, thinking that it would go out of stock.
This is wonderful. Thank you so much. I did not get that box set because I just had to save money, but
now you will pick it up at some point. And you've got the poster.
Thank you so much.
All of your dreams came true.
That is awesome. Well, Merry Christmas. I hope you like what I got you.
I hope. I wish I should have put it in a different shaped box and pulled like what my mom would do, because when I was a kid I would just ask for movies for Christmas.
Yeah.
So my mom would put movies in different shaped boxes so that I didn't guess what they were.
That's awesome. That's like those. It reminds me of those prank gift boxes that look like just like an appliance or something, and then you open it and it's
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I wonder what this will be. It's another movie.
That's great. I will definitely be framing that at some point when I get an apartment, which hopefully will be very soon next year. So that is our last episode of the year, guys. A lot of fun changes are going to be happening to the podcast. Well, not changes, but we may be adding a subtitle to the podcast. Hint, hint.
Oh, God.
There will be a new website at some point. Hope at some point next year. That's all I'm going to say, because if I put a date on it, it's not going to hit it. So, but please have a great, safe, restful Christmas. Hug your loved ones. I hope it's not miserable.
And may your hauntings be merry.
God bless us, everyone. See you next year, guys.
Merry Christmas.